the young folks that do hear this, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So like I told Jude when he was plugging holes in the Trex decking that, hey, I know this is kind of monotonous, but this task is just as important as this other task I'm doing because it all has to get done and it all has to be done well. So just keep that in mind and give everything your best shot and you'll go a long way in life.
Welcome to the final episode of the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk podcast, our discussion with building industry professionals. This is Fine Homebuilding contributing editor and production manager at TDS Custom Construction, Ian Schwan. Today I'm joined by contractor Andy Steele of FRS Builders in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and his summer apprentice, Jude Griffin. You can find the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk podcast and the original Fine Homebuilding podcast at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. You can leave feedback and ask questions there too. So guys, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Thank you.
So Jude, tell us about your background and how you came to work for Andy.
So I am 15 years old right now, and I'm a rising sophomore at Wilkes Early College. I moved here about 3 years ago because my dad was getting a job here at North Wilkesboro Presbyterian Church. I met Andy at the church as well, and we had a youth group project where we had to build a pantry. Andy was leading that project. And we got halfway through, I think. And about 2 weeks after that, my dad told me that he got a text from Andy asking me if I wanted a summer job. And I said yes.
And it was all downhill from there, right?
Yep. The rest is history.
In full disclosure, I was kind of thinking during that project, hey, I wonder if any of these high school age kids have good focus or drive or ability or that kind of thing, and would be interested in a summer job. It was a little self-serving as well.
So what was that project? You said it was a pantry. Was this like a finish carpentry kind of job? What did this entail?
Oh, it was far from that. It was basically putting some shelving in a coat closet, just, cutting 2x4s and plywood to stock food to go in an outdoor free pantry.
Yeah.
So what made you say yes to it? It couldn't have just been that you needed something to do. Do you have other interests that lend itself to the building trades?
I mean, I have always liked building. I mean, Legos was probably where it first started. But, I wanted something to do this summer. And I've done a few woodworking projects and building stuff with my uncle. But, this seemed like a great opportunity. So...
Yeah, it's a little bit different to be out in the field with somebody like Andy, having to work to a schedule, work for clients, probably go from job to job, a little bit more dynamic than just doing a project, right?
Yeah.
So you have an interest in architecture and engineering. You're thinking about going to school for one of those two disciplines?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yes. How did working with Andy help you inform that decision?
Well, working through him, I've found a lot. I've learned a lot about architecture, and I've thought about being either an architect or maybe a robotics engineer. That's kind of fascinated me. But now I know a lot more about the architecture part, and I think that will help me and inform me about what my choices will be in the future. Yeah.
So Andy, tell us a bit about the types of projects that you focus on as a company and what some of the projects that Jude worked with you on this summer.
Sure. Yeah. As a company, we're a small owner-operated firm, so we tend to focus on smaller projects as well. We do a lot of renovation, kitchens, bathrooms, exterior projects this time of year because that's what is popular, like the deck replacement, which was the main project Jude helped me on. But he got to see a full gamut of what we do. We framed a deck, did a waterproofing system, put down the Trex decking, the railings. He missed out on the on running the cables, but
that was unfortunate.
yeah. He also got to take part in jackhammering up concrete in a bathroom to move plumbing in a slab and repouring the plumbing and insulating the walls and hanging the drywall. And we even one day went up to Boone and installed a live edge countertop that a local woodworker had made for a customer. So he really got to see a wide range of things. He even did some staining.
Yeah.
What was it like using the jackhammer to bust up a concrete floor? I think Andy actually sent me a picture of that project, and you were in the background with your earmuffs on, hammering away.
Yeah, it's quite heavy. I think it's like 60 pounds. I mean, it does it itself, sort of. You just have to hold it. But it's fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, it was hard, but it was fun. Yeah.
Andy, do you still remember the stage in life when demo was fun?
I do. Vaguely. Now it's just work.
Feels like it was a long, long time ago when breaking stuff was still fun, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the part of that project Jude really missed was busting all the wire lath and mortar and tile off the walls, shoveling it up out a window into a wheelbarrow and wheelbarrowing it to the dumpster. He was on vacation that week.
Yeah.
That's a good week to be on vacation.
It was.
Yep.
So what's it been like for you, Andy, as an experienced tradesman, to bring in somebody who's pretty young, hasn't done a lot of the work in the field? How has that been for you?
It's been good, really. It's not uncommon to hire somebody that doesn't have experience, but what was uncommon or refreshing, I guess you could say, was hiring somebody that didn't have experience and knew they didn't have experience, so they didn't have bad habits or anything like that. So I could teach Jude how to do something the way I wanted him to do it without, trying to undo past bad habits and that sort of thing. That was really nice. The downside maybe was insurance wise, there were certain tools and things that I couldn't let him use. So he was kind of limited on some of the tasks he could do. The insurance company didn't want me having a 15-year-old using saws really of any kind, that sort of thing. But no, it was a great experience, and I'm sure that would change person to person depending on who you hire. But it's great to be able to expose somebody to the trade and get to see them not know how something's going to go together. For example, the EPMD waterproofing system we did, and then kind of watch them figure it out as we go, and then it clicks at the end. You're like, oh, well, this is how this works. This is really cool. It also reminded me a lot of when I started in trade work, because in carpentry work, I didn't really have any experience outside of maybe building a birdhouse in shop class when I was in middle school.
We all start off knowing nothing.
Yep.
I think that's always really important for people with a lot of experience to remember when they're working with someone who doesn't, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
So how has your work with Touch a Trade made you a better teacher for somebody like Jude, and how has working with him influenced the way you view your role at Touch a Trade?
Yeah, I think at this point, probably most listeners know what Touch a Trade is, but if somebody doesn't, that's an event that Mason from Hudson Valley Preservation and his team put on up in Connecticut every year, or this will be the second year, I guess, where they try to expose young people to all sorts of different trades. I went last year as a presenter and did a demonstration on laying out square with string lines and using like the 3-4-5 method or Pythagorean theorem to do the math to figure out what your measurements, your triangles are going to be, to make sure you have right corners, 90-degree corners. So whatever you're building will be square. It helps you when you do the same task over and over again like that. I probably ran through that presentation 30 times that day, at least. It really helps you understand the kids don't know anything, right? Like, you can't take anything for granted. You can't just assume that somebody knows what a 3, 4, 5 triangle is. You can't assume that somebody knows the Pythagorean theorem. So I went into it knowing that I couldn't assume that Jude knew how to use a speed square or exactly how to read a tape measure. He did know how to read a tape measure, which is probably uncommon for most 15-year-olds these days. But yeah, it just really makes you slow down and take a step back and think, if I'm going to explain this to someone, I need to take my knowledge out of it and assume they don't know anything. It kind of, back to my college days of communications and a lot of journalism and technical writing training, it was a lot like thinking about like you were writing instructions. Like, think if you were going to write instructions to put together a IKEA desk, what would you do? Kind of have that mindset.
So what are some of the other things that you do at Touch a Trade, and do you ever see yourself trying to bring one of those expos to North Carolina?
That's a great question. It's something I would love to do. Life caught up with me this year, and I didn't get it done. I took on a role as a Cub Master for our Cub Scout pack, and that ate up a whole lot of extra time that I didn't have in the first place, but that's okay. I would love to bring it to North Carolina, and, with Touch a Trade, my main role was just a presenter. I obviously was there a couple days before and helped set up and help take down booths and helped other presenters get things together. They really have a great team there at Hudson Valley that does all the legwork, and they've got great sponsors that donate, building materials and food and everything else they need.
What were some of the other presenters that you helped get set up there?
Oh, we had an electrician. We helped build him a wall to, hang a panel on and practice, running a circuit. There was the guy next to me was a framer, and he was, I think he was doing a presentation on cutting stringers, maybe. One person, a plumber, came up, and he had a whole bathroom roughed in on a trailer and just pulled it to the site and unhooked it. And you could see it was a shower, water heater, lavatory, water closet, the whole thing. It was all rough plumbed, ready to go. And I think they even maybe ran water through it at some point. I didn't get to really see his presentation that well, but his setup was super cool. It was neat to see somebody just pulling a bathroom in on a trailer.
So, Jude, what was the best and worst job that Andy gave you to do over the summer?
I would say one of my favorites was that time we put in the countertop for an island in Boone. You already mentioned it, but I think it had a live edge. It was really neat, and it had a blue epoxy. It looked super cool, and my job was to put in the shims so it would become flat or level. And that took like an hour maybe,
Yeah.
But it was super cool. And that was one of the jobs that I got to actually see accomplished.
Yep.
So yeah, it felt good.
How did you set yourself up to tackle that? What kind of tools did you use to give yourself the plane that you were going to?
We had a few drills. We had to drill through the shims, I believe, and through the island countertop itself, and then into the countertop with a certain it was like a maybe 3/4 inch screw, so it wouldn't go through. But yeah, and then we had shims, and it really didn't take much tools at all. We just needed a level, drills, shims, and a utility knife. So it wasn't all that complicated. What
did you find challenging about doing that?
I would say that was one of the easier jobs that I did, but I mean, I still wasn't sure what I was doing. So Mr. or Andy told me what to do. So I was pretty aware by the time I had to do something.
What did you think was challenging about that, Andy, or was it as easy as he's making it seem?
Honestly, the challenging part was carrying this countertop up 4 or 5 flights of steps after a couple hundred yards of steep driveway. The countertop guy couldn't get his van any closer to the house than that. No, that one was pretty straightforward. The challenging part really was the folks that fabricated the countertop couldn't take enough thickness out of it to take all the twist out of the wood, being that, live edge walnut that was 8/4 or 2 inches thick. But yeah, I mean, it was really pretty straightforward. They had an existing wood countertop there that we just went over top of to use as something to fasten the new countertop to, and just drill an oversized hole and use a fender washer to allow for wood movement. So as the seasons change in a lot of the places, for the folks that don't know, it was in the mountainous part of North Carolina. So they see 85 degrees in the summer and single digits in the winter, and most of the houses don't have air conditioning, that sort of thing. It's up around 3,000, 3,500 feet of elevation. So they get a wide range. So you do have to keep in mind wood movement and that sort of thing.
So what was the toughest job you had, Jude? Was it the jackhammering, or did he have you digging holes or something else like that?
I would say it was the one just before jackhammering. We had to use a concrete saw to cut out a certain section of the concrete to fit in the drain for the shower. And that saw, I mean, it was a wet saw, but it spewed a lot of dust out, and it set the carbon monoxide thing on the other side of the house off. So, I mean, the conditions were terrible. And I mean, it was hot that day. It was probably in the high 80s. And so, yeah, we were in there for like 10 minutes. My job was to suck up the water with the vacuum. And we were in there for 10 minutes, and we had to go outside for like 15 minutes to take a break. And we did that like 4 times. I mean, that was probably one of the most difficult things I did that summer.
What kind of personal protective equipment did you have to wear for that project?
So we had breathing masks as well as eye protection, because the saw, I mean, it let out sparks. You could definitely see those. It was a pretty big saw, but the breathing mask was probably one of the most important things. And yeah, we had the windows open as well, just for safety.
Yeah, that was pretty awful. It was in a space about 75 square feet and with one tiny window, and as big of a fan as you could get in there, and eye protection, ear protection, respirators only go so far.
So what did you have to do as the main tradesperson on that job to make sure that you prepared Jude properly and prepared the site properly? What were some of the steps that you took to make sure that it was a safe operation?
Sure. We had plasticed off the area, with zip poles to kind of quarantine it, contain it from the rest of the home. Turned off the HVAC equipment, so there wasn't a return in there, but I still didn't want to start cycling fumes everywhere. All the kind of normal site protection we had already set up, with floor protection all the way to the front door, that kind of thing. I did prepare Jude to know that it was going to be pretty awful and it was going to be stinky. And I, just take a lot of breaks, check in, make sure everybody's feeling okay. Kind of came up with, I said it kind of tongue in cheek, but I was being somewhat serious. Like, hey, if I pass out while I'm running this saw, drag me outside, then call for help. Don't leave me in here and call for help.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But I mean, you say it jokingly, but it is something you do need to discuss. Like, if this goes wrong, what do we do? And it's, it's a process I had done before, so I knew what to expect, but he didn't. And I tried to paint a realistic picture. And kind of back to your previous question, I think about hiring a young person from high school for the summer. I think it's important to not just treat them as just cheap labor and just give them all the crummy, awful jobs you don't want to do. You do need to take it seriously as a teaching role. And it is going to, it could slow down your production depending on what you're doing. If you're trying to teach somebody something and you have to go in and expect a new person, whether it's a high school student or an adult, they're going to make mistakes, and you're going to know that that's going to happen. And don't get upset, be patient, explain a mistake when it happens and why it happened and how to not do it again. I mean, Jude saw me make plenty of mistakes, and I've been doing this for 20 years. So
what were some of the steps that you took throughout the summer working with Jude to make sure that he was clued into everything that you were doing? Did you guys talk about things that were coming up next at the end of the day? Did you talk about stuff in the morning? How did you keep him tuned into the work?
Yeah, we started the day, even on his first day, I was kind of like, all right, first thing when we get to the job every day, we need to get the tools out, get everything set up, get the batteries charging. And then it would be, all right, this is our goal for the day. This is what I want to get done by the end of the day. And to do that, we need to start at step A, step B, step C, and kind of see how the day's progressing about lunchtime, and then adjust our plan if we need to, sometimes you've got to, if things are going slow, for a client, it feels good to see visible progression, right? Like if there's some low hanging fruit, something you can do that makes a big visual impact that really looks like the project's going to roll on forward and is going well. If something is being slow, like putting on joist hangers and deck hardware and stuff like that, that's just a task that takes time, right? But doesn't really look that impressive, which I think that was actually the first task I did let Jude do. I gave him the joist hangers and the positive placement nailer and showed him how it operated and gave him a quick safety talk. This thing's really loud. It shoots out little shards of galvanized steel when it puts the nail in. Wear these glasses. Here's some gloves. Here's some ear protection. And let him nail joist hangers on for a while.
Jude, what did you think of the amount of site protection and cleaning that goes into these projects?
Well, the protection, he actually showed me a few videos before I started about like ladder protection, wearing eyeglasses and things like that are really important because, one little like mishap and you could go blind if you're not wearing protection. So, things like that, he helped me be aware that that's very important. But on the site cleaning as well, he taught me that when you end the day and you have all this sawdust everywhere and you clean it off, and if the home inspector comes or the person who owns the home comes and they see that, it kind of like it shows that you care and that kind of thing. And it also helps with safety wise as well. So cleaning afterwards is very important as well, as what I learned.
And doing things like the plastic walls and closing off vents and making sure that the work that you're doing isn't going to negatively impact the rest of the house, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was something I forgot earlier. I did send Jude 3 or 4 YouTube videos on ladder safety and eye protection, hearing protection, and the importance of it. Because I remember when I was 15 years old, I probably would not have done any of those things, right? I would have just used the safety squint and it would have been fine.
Yep. It makes me think of one of the first jobs that I was on as an apprentice in the Carpenters Union. We were changing out windows and I was, ripping away at an existing window with a flat bar and my hammer, no safety glasses, no ear protection. And one of the kind of old gruff guys came and took my tools away and then told me I had to go back to the truck and get hearing protection and safety glasses, and then said, you can squint all you want, but when you get to my age, you want to be able to see and hear. And that was something that always stuck with me. So it's an important part to get across to people that are young when they come and work for you. Because like you said, you're in that stage of invincible and not really thinking about it.
Yeah, having been to the eye doctor to get things removed from my eyes multiple times, it's not fun. And I would urge everybody to take the proper safety measures and protect your eyes and ears. You only get one set. You want to be able to hear your kids when they talk to you.
So, Jude, what was your overall impression of residential remodeling work?
It's very hard, but I enjoy it a lot. Like when you're at a big job, like over a month, something's going to inevitably go wrong, or there's going to be like an issue, and you have to figure out a way to go around that. And I think that's part of what I enjoy is, Mr. or Andy, he does most of that, but I get to watch him as he overcomes those problems and think to myself, eventually that might be me in that situation. And so, yeah, but also the feeling of at the end, when you look at a project that you've completed and you think I've done that, and that was me, it feels really good. So yeah, I would say my impressions are very positive. Yeah.
What did you think about the differences between a longer project that you're on for a month and then one like you just go up to Boone and throw in a countertop as a one-day thing? Do you have any preference for type of project?
The longer projects, I would say overall, like they are more fun, but the smaller projects such as the countertop, they're usually easier. And sometimes that just like the difficulty is what makes it challenging and what makes it enjoyable. So I would say longer projects are in the long haul more enjoyable. Yeah.
Andy, what other advice do you have for tradespeople who are considering hiring a student like Jude for summertime work?
Oh, I would say definitely, if it's something you've thought about doing, absolutely do it. I think it's great. It's a great resource if you have something like our early college, which is a high school program that I think Jude can probably explain it better than me, but you go for 5 years. Is that right?
Yeah. 5 years, and you get 2 years of college and 4 years of high school. So
you end up with an associate's degree and a high school diploma at the same time. And there's no cost, at least here. It's just, it's just like public school. That's my understanding anyways.
Yes.
But if you have a program like that, a lot of times the community college some of those students will be going through the tech program, whether it be plumbing, electrical, HVAC, whatever, carpentry, whatever it is. That's a good place to look. I would also urge people, I think, exposing folks to the trade at the high school age is great. But at that point, the kids know, the young men and women know kind of what their next step's going to be for the most part. Or maybe they don't know, but they have been told they need to go to college. I'm from the generation of people that were told, if you don't go to college, you're not going to amount to anything. Trade work is a backup. And it definitely isn't. Ian, you and I have been having a conversation about hiring carpenters and the pay rates for carpenters, even apprentice carpenters. I didn't make that kind of money until I was in my 30s, right? Like I went to college and got a college degree, and I made $11 an hour as a copywriter for a online retailer. And that was using my degree. I got a raise after I got laid off from that job and went and did trade work. So, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I'm kind of rambling at this point, but no, I would recommend people do it. I would recommend they try to get in front of the kids at an earlier age, which is part of what Touch a Trade does. It focuses on the late elementary to middle school age kids, kind of in that 9 to 13. Get them excited about that at an earlier age, and let the kids know, let the parents know, more importantly, that you don't have to have a traditional college degree. I do think continuing your education is important, especially if you think you want to go into business for yourself, because there's a lot of business to learn, right? Carpenters don't always make the best business people, and I'm a prime example of that. But I'd also like to ask Jude, I know he's a big soccer player. Did you find any benefits or correlations between the kind of work we do and how it affects, your outside interests like soccer or mountain biking or anything like that?
I would say, like, physically, we did a lot of upper body stuff during work. That's mostly what happened. And building my upper body, like, that's what our job really helped with. And so I would say being able to, like, be physical, that's definitely been a change for me in soccer. But also, being able to, because this job was hard and you really had to look to the future to keep going. And that's kind of the same for me personally. It would be soccer. Like right now, I'm not at the level where I am like the greatest and I'm a starter or anything like that. I'm not there yet, but I have to think ahead and be like, I could be there next year, and I have to keep pushing. And so our job has helped me a lot doing that as well.
What about the correlation between the team sport like soccer and then having to work with Andy on projects as a team to accomplish something?
So, for teams, communication is key. And I think that's what my team, we're really good. That's what we do well. And Andy has really helped with communication as well. And I appreciate that. So,
thanks for saying that. Something I'd mentioned to Jude, and something I would hope other folks realize too. It's like, even if you are going to go to college, looking for these kind of jobs through high school, when you are in college, you're going to make a whole lot more money, even as a part-time carpenter for somebody, and in the summer times as a full-time carpenter or apprentice. You're going to make a whole lot more money doing that than you are, working at Starbucks or whatever. Like, the opportunity to have a part-time job making $20, $25 an hour, or a summer job making $20, $25 an hour will go a long way to support your lifestyle when you're in school and you can't work those kind of hours, especially if you are having to pay for school yourself. And coming out of college with a bunch of student debt, I can tell you, is not great.
Yeah, it's something that can be avoided by looking for these opportunities, and could be even outside of carpentry. Any type of trade based business is always going to be looking for that young person to come and help them out, especially during a busy time like summer.
Absolutely.
So Jude, what advice do you have for your peers who are looking for summer jobs or maybe considering going to work for a contractor?
So, coming from me personally, I would say look for those opportunities like Touch a Trade, or, for me, it'd be a youth volunteer project. And, work hard at those kind of things. If you do get those opportunities, and who knows, maybe someone's watching you who has the ability to open up doors for your future. And those kind of opportunities can be really important and change your life.
Well, do you guys have any last piece of advice or wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience?
I would say for the young folks that do hear this, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So like I told Jude when he was plugging holes in the Trex decking that, hey, I know this is kind of monotonous, but this task is just as important as this other task I'm doing, because it all has to get done and it all has to be done well. So just keep that in mind, and just give everything your best shot, and you'll go a long way in life.
That's all good advice, and I hope people can take Jude's perspective and give some thought to maybe a different type of summer job and reach out to more people like Andy and show interest and ask if they need any help over the summer. I think there are a lot of good opportunities for young tradespeople, especially with the small businesses like what Andy runs. So Andy and Jude, I want to thank you both for taking the time to join me today, and thanks to all of you for listening.
Thanks for having us. It was great.
Thank you.
As I mentioned in the opener, this is the final episode of the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk podcast. Patrick, Mark, myself, and those who work behind the scenes have had the honor of helping more than 150 guests tell their stories over 177 episodes. Patrick started recording the podcast during the early days of the pandemic shutdown as a way for people in the building trades to remain in touch with each other as the pandemic brought job sites and travel to a halt. The podcast evolved to include guests from outside the building trades and even a few listeners who, after writing into the main Fine Homebuilding podcast, found themselves being talked into becoming Pro Talk guests. As with many of the building projects that I have labored on, the end of Pro Talk is bittersweet. I want to thank Jeff and Carrie for all the work that they have done behind the scenes in making sure that the episodes of this show sounded and looked their best. And I want to thank Patrick and the many other Fine Homebuilding editors past and present, most notably the late Andy Engel, for whom without his influence I would have never had the opportunity to write for Fine Homebuilding and to take part in Pro Talk and the Fine Homebuilding podcast. Andy was fond of saying that in the building trades, we are all part of a continuum, and it is my hope that the listeners of Pro Talk will continue to take the time to inspire others to take chances and to teach them new skills, as Andy did for me. And most of all, I want to thank you, the listener, for your time, your engagement, and for being part of the continuum.